Hello everybody, this is Evan Rogers coming at you with an Orthodox take on the Japanese, or the Japanese take on the Orthodox greeting, Christ is risen! Truly he is risen! Christ is risen! Alright, in Japanese, the phrase is written right here. It's just, you probably can't read it if you're not very good at Japanese. A very brief pronunciation guide to the Japanese Orthodox Paschal Greeting. Paschal Greeting by this guy right here. For those of you who are wondering what the heck I'm doing, I'm an Orthodox Christian, and around Paschal, which is the Orthodox Easter, we have a greeting. We try to say it in every language possible, and at my church, I'm pretty much the only guy that speaks Japanese, except the other guy, but, so I'm trying to teach all these guys at church how to pronounce this. Here's the video doing just that. Alright, this is the short, this is all you need. That first one, this is how you say Christ is risen. Haristos Fukatsu. You can add an u there. You don't need it. Fukatsu by itself is fine. Haristos Fukatsu. And then the response is Jitsuni Fukatsu. Fukatsu is resurrection, revive, like to come back again, so to speak, to restore. Haristos is how we say Christ in the Orthodox tradition of Japanese. Japan we don't need to get into it too much. I'll talk about that later. Sorry. A little bit of history later. Jitsu-ni. This is the response. Jitsu-ni fukatsu. Jitsu-ni fukatsu. Jitsu means true. Jitsu-ni makes it into an adverb. So truly he is resurrected. Notice there's no the subject is kind of lacking. This is literally just Christ. Revive. Truly revive. In Japanese, it makes a little bit more sense. In English, it's like, eh? Alright, that's all you really need to know. You can stop now if you want to, but if you want to get just a little bit more in depth, that's what the rest of this video is going to be about. Alright, written Japanese breakdown. On the left, we have Haristos Fukatsu. This is the kanji. On the left, we have Haristos. This is written in katakana because it is a borrowed word, not a native Japanese word. The kanji is clearly tricky to read, so they have their own way of writing out these words, and they use hiragana. So this is like the kanji's the fancy I have an education way of writing it, and the hiragana is it's not a borrowed word way of writing stuff like kanji. Then I wrote it what each one of these characters is in what's called romaji, the Roman letters. It literally means Rome, G letters. And so we have ha, ri, su, to, su, fukatsu. You'll notice this is a little bit different than what I showed earlier. That's because we don't necessarily pronounce all of these letters. So the pronunciation is more like haristos fukatsu. And then here we have Jitsuni Fukatsu. Once again, we have the crazy kanji, which is difficult to read unless you're going to study a whole lot. And then this is the hiragana right here. Jitsu ni fukatsu. Jitsu ni fukatsu. So truly he is risen. Just in case you wanted to see how to write it out step by step. Fancy educated way, a little bit less fancy educated way, the Roman way of writing it because it's easier to read for us. And then this is actually more about how it's pronounced on the bottom. That's why it's got them quotation marks. Pronunciation guide, if you actually want to try to speak Japanese a little bit better, here's a few tips for you. You're going to notice that Japanese is syllabic. It mostly follows a consonant, vowel pattern. Syllables, syllabic, syllables, syllabic. I mean, the actual alphabet is a, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, ta, chi, tsu. You can hear that consonant vowel sound over and over again. Ha, ri, su, to, su, fu, ka, tsu. Jitsu ni fukatsu. You see that consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. There's the occasional place where it doesn't follow that pattern exactly. But give or take. There are only 5 vowel sounds, and you can blend them together to get different vowel sounds, but they're all going to be these 5 basic vowel sounds. A, E, U, E, O. Evan, that's an I, not an E. Yes, I'm aware. The letter I in Japanese is how we do the E sound, and that's because we have the E letter over here, which is pronounced E. And so the people who made Romaji had to make a decision. All right. A as in calm or fall. E as in keep or Steve. U as in stew or blue. As in Evan or bet. You betcha. O as in poke or flow. Okay, so just that's it. That's all of it. So we have ha, ri, su, to, su, fu, ka, tsu. We don't have any sounds here, which makes me cry because that's the letter of my name. All right, next is F isn't really an F. The F sound in Japanese is like a strange mix of F and H. It only really... You only ever see the F as hu. So F... Apologies, it's F and U. F-U. What are you going to do? It's a pun. So it's pronounced like hu, but you're not going to hit that hu. And you're not also going to say you're also not going to say like kung fu. Everybody was kung fu fighting hu. It's going to be more like a soft hu and not a you're not hitting that F. So hu. I like to joke around as like, who are you? Who. You can kind of, hopefully you can hear that that's different than who, and it's very different than foo. So just be careful, the F isn't really an F. You also notice, I talked about this briefly, Sue isn't always pronounced Sue, like the name Sue. In the first and second Su's, and then the final Tsu, we didn't actually have the U sound. It was Haristos Fukatsu, but the last Tsu we didn't really need to pronounce. The U sound in Jitsu ni is pronounced because it is followed by a soft consonant. So the reason why we didn't pronounce it in the first one is because there was a hard consonant T, Haristos Fukatsu. And the reason why we didn't pronounce the final one as strong, or you can pronounce it, but you don't really need to, is because it's the end of the word. So we don't really need to worry about hitting those oohs. The vowel sounds kind of differentiate and let us know there's a consonant coming. That might be a good way of putting that. So, Haristos Fukatsu. Jitsu Fukatsu. And why is it not Christo or Kiristo? Why doesn't it sound anything like Christ? Well, that's because we're English speakers. What in the Greek it's Christ. Oh, what is it? It's Christos Anesti. Yeah, there we go. My brain's not working. Christos Anesti. So in Greek it sounds like Christos. So it sounds like Christ, and then but the thing is that the Orthodox Church came to Japan via Saint Nicholas of Japan. Here's a Saint Nikolai, so Saint Nikolai. I guess his name was Nikolai Kashaktin. I don't speak Russian, excuse me. And he was Russian, as I just announced. And apparently the pronunciation of Christ is something like Christos, which is that like sound clearing your throat sound. I don't actually know if that's true, but that's what some guy on YouTube said. I looked up this name and how to pronounce it, and he was like, Christos. And I was like, oh, okay, Christos. So it's like a K and an H mixed together, Christos, something like that. And if you actually make that sound in your voice, go ahead and give it a shot now. Christos. It's actually the same location in your throat where this H sound is coming from. So that's why it's Haristos. Haristos, Christos, Christos, Christ. That's sort of the whole span of the name going on there. Just a side note, Japan has a very difficult time with Christianity because the first Christians there were, I believe they were Jesuits, i.e. some form of Catholicism. And so they introduced his name as Iesu Christos. Iesu. Christos. Christo. So they know the name Iesu Christo. And then the Protestants from America made Christmas really popular, which made the word Christmas kurisumasu. So kirisuto, kurisumasu. And then the Orthodox are like, what are you talking about? It's obviously Haristos. So the Japanese are just like, dude, what's going on here? We got Kiristo, we got Kurisu, and we got Haristos. Like, what are we doing over here? Anyway, that is the Paschal Greeting for Japan with a brief explanation on how that all works. Christ is risen! Truly he is risen! Christos anesti! Alidos anesti! Haristos fukkatsu! Jitsu ni fukkatsu! Have yourself a holly jolly post Lent. I guess it's the end of Bright Week. Have yourself a good year. Christ is risen. 10,